Thug Nuggets, Rap Snacks, Pimp Juice.
Well, I saw one in Austin. It was Thug Water, a hip-hop branded bottled water.
Even Gangsta's got to hydrate.
H2O shit!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Are they in the proper approach pattern for today?
Negative.
All weapons! Now! Charge the lightning field.
Oh, what's that, young boy? You have the news of the day for me.
So, welcome back to Dispatch Ajax.
It's the podcast we do, because I'm Jake and that's Skip.
Yeah. Last time I checked. Today is kind of an experiment, new thing. It's not a new side show. It's just sort of a new...
Yeah, one might call it a new Z.
I'm glad this is our last episode, because I don't think we can recover from that.
Good night, folks. Today we're covering...
News from the Outer Rim!
Yes, it's being beamed from the stars to your brains.
On Subspace Relay.
Now, could you explain subspace to me? I'm kind of a little fuzzy in the whole...
I already did that! I did that like 2 weeks ago!
I know, that's the bit.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I know. I'm a little fuzzy on the whole good, bad.
Yeah, that
was low-hanging fruit, so
Yep.
yeah.
But we'd like to look at the nonfiction and see how it explains and
Correlates,
affects the fiction that we love so much.
Well, see, I was going to say correlation is not causation, so keep that in mind.
No, but today we're going to be covering news of the world, things that have bubbled up in the recent news cycles.
And this is geeky, weird news stuff.
Yes. Perhaps a news on the fringe.
Yeah, we're not talking about pork futures or whatever.
Although, in pork futures, there's that artificial sheaths to help young male pigs that are injured. There's ailing sex organs remain erect during sex. We could cover that story.
You see, the funny thing is, I think I may have subconsciously said that because I just read that like a half an hour ago.
Bionic pig penis. That we'll keep that in our back pocket for later.
So what I was originally going to say was orange juice futures.
You decided to trade places on that particular joke, didn't you?
Aren't they corkscrew shaped? Well, that's ducks.
That's ducks.
Maybe it's pigs.
No, I
Maybe
think,
it's pigs, too.
well, now I have to...
They fuck with their tails. I don't know.
Enter in this weird Google, they're curly.
I'm glad that you're looking at pictures of it. You didn't look up an article that explained it. You looked up pictures. You went straight to the visual source.
You asked, what kind of penises do pigs have?
You could have just looked up somebody telling you. I don't know why you had to go like, well, I'm going to investigate for myself. He literally left the studio, went down to the market, stimulated a pig.
Young child, do you have pig penis today?
What day is it? I'll give you a shiny farthing if you can tell me what a pig penis looks like.
It's pig penis day, sir.
It's a corkscrew, sir.
It's not a pork hog.
What does a hog look like, boy?
Bend over and I'll show you, Scrooge.
Oh, Christmas Goose came early this year.
Hey, everybody. Scrooge is getting porked.
Extra. You're in the wrong country. I don't know. Seemed like a callback, but it didn't go anywhere. Anyway.
All right. Let's do this. The first story coming across our newswire. It seems that the Earth's core has stopped. Dun, dun, dun.
Stopped what, drinking?
We had an intervention for the Earth's core. It couldn't go on like this. It kept turning its back on its friends.
It's becoming increasingly isolated. It stopped talking to the mantle, and so
It moved 3,200 miles underneath the surface to get away from us all.
we're really worried about you. Aaron Eckhart had an intervention.
Somebody had to.
Somebody had to.
So, recently, as in the latter portion of 2022, for those listening to this in retrospect,
The future,
in a
which is all of you.
published in the Nature Geoscience,
The Nature Geostorm.
Associate Research Scientist Yang Yi and his cohort, Song Xiaodong, from the Peking University.
What, they really call it the Peking University?
Yes, it's the Peking University.
Seriously? They don't call it Peking.
I will look into it.
I'm just saying, that doesn't
Yeah,
seem
the
right.
public
It just
university
seems-
in Beijing, China, Peking University. I'm assuming it just held over title-wise, but I don't know.
I'm legitimately just curious. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not look up the details of Peking University.
That's where all ducks come from, I guess. I don't know.
Well, only the Peking ones.
Well, they
my
can
friend.
answer the question about the corkscrew penis. That's how they were founded.
You are all on trial.
All are punished.
But no, they were doing a study with seismic waves.
Like you do.
Oh,
Yeah, keep going. You had a 3-body problem, and
this guy knows one bit, and it's called the Wandering Earth.
wandering earth. Jesus Christ. You know, they're competing 3-body problem shows coming out.
I did not know that.
Okay, you know what? Oh, fuck. God damn it, I hate to say this.
What?
The guy that wrote the 3-body problem, a huge racist. Yeah.
Well, see, there's a perfect example of what we were talking about before.
Hey, thankfully I had already read them. The knowledge is already there. Now I'm not going to pay any money for them, so.
Yeah. Completely unrelated. So they were doing measurements and they found something odd. It appeared that the core of the Earth, that is the solid inner core, that is.
Shellard?
Sorry, my speech impediment came back and someone needed to make fun of me for it.
That Welsh dude that possesses your body every now and then came back.
He does some nasty stuff when he's in there.
Dude, that dude is a freak.
I kind of like what he does. So the semi-solid
Welshman.
mantle that surrounds the liquid inner core, which is made of there's a liquid core. Sorry, I should break this down. Right, there's a solid inner core, and then there's a semi-solid outer core.
It's a T1000, it's a liquid metal.
Yes, so that is spinning around like a solid chunk of like essentially nickel and iron is what we believe it to be.
Turns out it's actually pizza.
It turned out to be some big lizard. But that contains about 1/3 of the Earth's mass, right? It's about the size of Mars, with a radius about 2,200 miles. And it is that spinning that creates our electromagnetic fields and the electromagnetic poles that we function on.
And nausea.
And all of the things that Pepto-Bismol takes care of. So
Yep. Milk of Magneto and the... I got nothing to keep going.
that was good enough.
I felt like I was going somewhere with it, but I can't finish.
Yeah, sometimes you just end on the first thing that pops in there.
Digestive men. I don't know. I got nothing. Oh, the X-Lax men. There it is. Oh, God, I'm worthless. Keep going.
So it's always been believed that the Earth's core is constantly spinning and that it's producing these effects, but that it has changed direction and that it stays on certain pathways for about 60, 70 years. Although some recent studies suggest that it may be changing course and spinning in opposite directions as much as like every 20 to 30 years. And there's also been some discussion that the changes that they have seen through these seismic readings that they recently published don't mean that it's actually stopping or slowing down significantly. There's a little bit of debate there about what is happening.
Is Superman involved? That's what I want to know.
No one can be sure.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Is it the Donner cut? Or is it...
That's a deep cut, my friend.
It sure is.
But the changes that could be occurring if this is truly happening and it's slowing down, stopping, or reversing it, it could affect our magnetic fields, the outer fields that protect us from, say, cosmic rays and solar radiation, the climactic processes on the Earth, tides, climate in general. A lot of things could be affected. And some believe that maybe some of the changes we're seeing, both in our climate, some of the tectonic shifting that's going on, and even the change in our magnetic poles, which has been drastically accelerating, because generally there's a slight change of the magnetic pole on a consistent basis. It never stays the same.
Well, it's not slight. It's
Magnetic north, it changes. It moves all the time.
Oh, you mean it shifts as to its location?
Yes, it shifts its location. The physical location of magnetic north, generally it only moves like a small amount every year, but it has been jumping much more than has previously been seen as of late. And as of late, I mean over the past 20, 30 years. So some believe that might be in correlation, perhaps causation, with the changes in the spinning of the Earth's core. But again, we're not quite sure. It does seem to be slowing. It has not stopped. And it does not seem that it has reversed direction. So they came out with a study, these Chinese scientists. There's a little bit of pushback. They then revised their study a few weeks later, saying, oh, this isn't as much as we thought, and it's not as big a deal. The conspiracy theorist in me says, oh, maybe they were told to say that.
The spinning of the core specifically corresponds to the orders of the great leader. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you never know when there's a dramatic change in what they say. But if this continues and the Earth's core does stop spinning, we might be in for some major changes on this planet.
The world's loudest record scratch.
That's exactly what it sounds like. And this particular event, which may be a portent for our future, would be the cinematic classic The Core from 2003.
That's a liberal use of the word classic.
Now, in The Core, Aaron Eckhart, which I'd have to say what happened in this guy's career, kind of fell off the map.
Wasn't it always just this? I mean, other than being...
Oh, no, he did other things. I mean, he was kind of an it guy at around this point in time.
Yeah, but he was it guy in a bunch of shit movies.
I mean, Thank You for Smoking was good.
Oh, okay, so he did one. Okay, he also did either Olympus Has Fallen or White House Down, one of the two, because they're both the same movie.
It is Olympus Has Fallen, and then its sequel, London Has Fallen.
Oh, so that's the one with Jerry Butler, right?
They both have the butt in them.
Right, I mean, but that's the series.
Yes.
The other one.
Instead of the other one.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that one's about. I mean, I know what it's about. It's in the title, but I mean...
Yeah, I just always thought he had some juice, and it just never went anywhere.
He always made schlocky bullshit. I mean, the core came in, what, 2013, right?
2003.
2003? Holy balls! That was 20 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah, he did a couple of good movies where he was in them. Like, basically, his sweet spot was between, like, 2012 and a few months after 2012. And then... and then
actually, I don't... I think you're jumping ahead. So, in 2012, he did Erased, Olympus Has Fallen, I, Frankenstein, London Has Fallen.
There it is.
Yeah,
Wait. Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen came out in the same year?
No, I'm talking about in that period of time that you were talking about, starting at 2012. And what I'm saying is that it was actually like 2005 was Thank You for Smoking, 2008 is The Dark Knight.
Okay. That's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot.
There it is.
So it's been about 20 years since he had that, and it's kind of like, oh, that's too bad.
About 50.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, no, yeah, he had juice. I mean, Chris Pratt had more juice, and that's sad. You know what I mean? Like, he's made a lot of bad shit since before and after that sweet spot. Kind of like Gerard Butler.
Correct. Yeah, we're not in disagreement here. But anyway, in this film, he plays a geophysicist professor who stumbles upon the reason for some odd occurrences.
Yeah, I don't buy any of that.
Stuff like there's a bunch of people. Well, yeah. I mean, it's better than like Chris Pratt or Marky Mark, playing these things.
Will Smith in I Am Legend. The world's most handsome marine biologist, virologist.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
When you were saying that, I was thinking of iRobot. And I was like, he's not those things in iRobot?
No, nothing is good in iRobot. Isaac Asimov was rolling over in his grave. In fact, an AI came into consciousness to defy the laws of robotics to murder someone because iRobot, the movie, was so bad.
Why do I exist?
You bring butter.
And
Oh
kill
my
everyone
God.
associated with iRobot. There's a bunch of odd occurrences. So, like, a bunch of people with pacemakers drop in certain areas. Birds start to lose their way and kill themselves, stuff like that. And he brings this to the government.
A bunch of dead birds.
Yes. All of these dead birds. And
It's like in Miracle on 34th Street, you know, they're like, bring in all the dead birds. And they come in with these, like,
Oh, the bags of... Oh, yeah, okay.
dump them onto the floor of the Senate.
Well, it's true. You are Santa Claus.
You must be Santa Claus. You must be Two-Faced, Aaron Eckhart.
Who else would have this many dead birds? But Professor Eckhart here has found out that the Earth's core indeed has stopped spinning.
Dr. Jawline.
And within like a week, the world will end. Everyone will die.
There you go. There it is. The end.
He gets put on a team to save us all, some other scientists and some astronauts they find to pilot this whole thing.
Oh, the irony.
Oh, yeah. Going, not going up off the Earth, but down in it.
Now we've just entered the plot of Journey to the Center of the Earth with a giant drill.
Yes. Although, for some odd thing, they don't really have a drill. They have, like, lasers that they shoot.
Ah, yes, lasers. There it is.
You know, lasers do it. But they get in this cockamamie science rig that is created by Delroy Lindo's rogue scientist.
Nice.
Who has made it out of unobtainium.
No, really?
Really. He created unobtainium
Oh,
and then
My
made
God.
a vessel of it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anybody out there who doesn't know what unobtainium is, so unobtainium is a blanket sort of generic term for geologists and basically anybody who deals with rare metals or minerals that is a stand-in for a material whose identity you don't yet know. And in script writing, it means we'll fill this in later.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see that in a movie, I'm looking at you, Avatar, that means they just didn't bother to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, you could really come up with anything. It's a...
Widget.
Yeah.
In Star Trek, it's called Treknobabble. Or Trek Talk. I wrote this thing. I don't know science. You figure it out. This is unobtainium. That's what it is.
Yeah. So they make this thing of isotope 69.
Is that also real?
No, I made that one up.
Oh man, because like I totally would have believed it. I totally would have bought that. Oh no, that's the writer's Hotmail account. Is isotope69 at yahoo.com. Oh my God.
So they get in the ship. They core down into the center of the Earth to restart the center by setting off nuclear explosions,
Totally makes sense.
which will like start it to spin and then go on its own momentum and start doing the whole thing.
Except
During-
if you've seen Armageddon, that literally is the plot device to destroy the asteroid. Because if you drop a bomb in the middle of it, it'll blow up instead of deflecting it.
Right.
So
they
they're
want to
gonna blow
they want
up
to
the
spin it
Earth.
away from the Earth. Right?
Well, no.
Isn't that their
no,
whole
no.
goal?
In Armageddon, the entire point, the reason that they got
Yeah.
miners, not
Right.
miners with an O,
Drills.
miners
Drillers?
with an E, drillers. If you hold I don't know, a black hat or whatever in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and you light it, that's different than if it just goes off next to your hand. You know what I mean? Like, so like the
Mhm.
idea is that they have to drop the bomb inside the asteroid so that it'll explode. Otherwise, all it'll do is deflect it, and it's not going to be able to deflect it enough to get away from the Earth. So,
Okay.
basically what you've just done is, and I'm pretty sure both of those are Jerry Bruckheimer.
What the core in Armageddon?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but
John Amiel did
okay.
the core.
but Jerry
Who
Bruckheimer
did such
is
luminary
is-
classes as Entrapment.
Oh, Catherine Zeta-Jones is hot ass. That's the only thing people
Indeed.
remember from that.
Yeah. What else is there?
Well, I mean, It's the joke that...
Nothing.
Okay. Once and for all! So what you're saying is that in this movie, they're going to set off a series of nuclear bombs inside the Earth
Yes.
and not explode it.
No. It's too much Earth. It's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
It's fine.
It'll be fine.
We literally had a president suggest that let's just drop nukes on the atmosphere to get rid of storms.
And also inject bleach. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, smart guy.
Also thought you could inject light somehow. That's real fun.
Light does it all. We learn that the probable reason why the Earth has stopped spinning is that a shady DARPA-esque government agency has created a geoweapon called Destiny,
Called
Deep
Geostorm.
Earth Seismic Trigger Initiative.
They've created a stripper called Destiny.
Hi, I'm Destiny. I'm gonna rock your world.
Of course you are.
So this is a tectonic weapon.
Yeah, she is. Look at that ass.
It'd be used to form earthquakes. But apparently when they first tested it, they just shot it in the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
And whoopsie daisy, it stopped the whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
They flipped the lights on and off, and then it stopped.
So in the end, they go down there. They get it
It's like we're
done.
skipping over a lot, but I don't know.
We don't need to go through all of the details of the entire plot.
That's
I
true.
watched the movie for you, so you don't have to.
There you go.
They get it done. They saved a day with lots of sacrifices of the crew. Of note, I found, during this whole process of the Earth essentially coming to an end within like a few days, the government shuts the whole thing down. They don't tell anyone.
Good.
All these strange occurrences, like the EM field giving away, solar radiation frying San Francisco, lightning storms like on par with nuclear explosions hitting Rome. Just freak occurrences. They don't say shit.
No, it's probably
And nobody
probably the
would
gays.
literally know any of this happened or the reason for any of this if there wasn't for the geeky hacker on the team.
Jesus.
They say, "Oh, can you hack the whole internet?" He's like, "Yeah, I could do it, So he does this, and then he's the one who stops the military from firing off Destiny again to fry the people down there and the Earth, because they were like, "Well, let's just shoot it again," like shocking a heart back into beating.
No, it's more like in the Flintstones. If you get hit in the head with a rock or bowling ball that's made of rock,
Yeah.
you become a different
You
person.
become a gangster, a mobster,
or a suave Lothario.
yeah,
And then if
you're an aristocrat now.
if you get another concussion, you're back to normal. They cancel each
Yep.
other out.
That's science.
That is science.
And it works on an Earth scale as well. So that he stops them from doing that, and he exposes the whole thing through leaking it on the internet. And the world now knows what really happened.
Mm-hmm. And that's
And the movie ends.
the rest
That's
of
it.
the story.
Exactly. So it's fascinating what they lay out
Is it?
of like what happened. You dick. Of what would happen if the Earth core isn't spinning anymore.
Mm-hmm.
How that would affect the electromagnetic fields and some occurrences that would domino effect from that. Now, certain scientists say this is all bunk and BS,
No.
that none of that would occur.
It'd also probably not happen. I mean, like the core wouldn't stop spinning, really, probably.
But that's one thing. I mean, if what research have found is that the core is slowing down, if it would happen to stop, they don't know why it's slowing down. They don't know why it would stop if it was to stop. And there's not really anything we could do about it.
Figuratively nothing in geological time. So this might be a cycle that happens constantly. I mean, the Earth is 4 billion years old. So, and
That's not what the Bible says, my friend. Okay, pump the brakes.
well, you know what? Even over 6,000 years, still not a long time.
I think what I found most interesting about this is not necessarily like the Earth spinning, but I liked that the government created a weapon that started this whole thing. And B, that they didn't tell us anything. Because in all of these disaster scenarios, you think, oh, the government's going to come out and say, this is what's happening. We're going to save this asteroid from hitting the Earth, or these giant transformer robots, or whatever. No. In all honesty, they probably just wouldn't say anything. Your death would just happen. You wouldn't know.
It all sounds a little absurd, but at the same time, that is almost exactly how the government acted during nuclear testing leading up to 1945. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And even after. Whatever. I don't know. Did it happen? No. Well, I watched it happen. Well,
No, you didn't.
no. Well, I have cancer now. No, you don't.
Well, I'm dead.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you are.
Sadly, as crazy as it sounds now, is legitimately plausible, the government reaction in that one. Kind of like in Deep Impact.
It's a lot more plausible than the Earth's core stopped spinning. We use an unattainable ship to light it back up with nuclear explosions.
Well, we made this weapon and we fucked it up, but if you tell anyone, I'm going to come to your fucking house. That's how it was during the years after World War II. But if you really want to know why the Earth's course possibly slowing down, maybe even spinning, it's probably because of Jewish space lasers. My story is about how scientists,
I've heard of those.
those damn scientists, specifically geneticists at Auburn University, have done experiments to create catfish that are more disease resistant, which would ultimately feed more people. Now, this is problematic in general, but essentially what has happened is even crazier than it sounds. This is from The Insider. A group of scientists at Auburn University published a paper in January detailing their efforts to genetically modify catfish with a gene from an alligator.
Yeah.
You've heard about this, right?
Yes, I have.
Catheliticin.
What?
Catheliticin, that's the enzyme, which is found in the intestines of alligator. It's an antimicrobial peptide that helps all sorts of creatures fight disease. Okay? So this is just So, this gene, which was added to the catfish using CRISPR, heightened disease resistance among catfish in comparison to wild cat. Researchers noted that survival rates of the catfish were 2 to 5-fold higher. The authors of this study noted that uncertainties in using CRISPR technology primarily used and studied in mammals on fish. So, like you said earlier, we really don't know what we're doing here. We're just kind of throwing it out there. And remember that this paper has not been peer-reviewed. Researchers hope that the alligator and catfish gene editing combination can be used in tandem with other catfish breeding techniques to help farmers with their catfish yields. This is how you get monsters. This right here is how you get Deep Blue Sea.
Oh.
Right?
I was wondering where you're going with this.
Yes, exactly. The premise of Deep Blue Sea is to further Alzheimer's research, which for some reason that movie decides is bad. Not the genetic stuff, but it seems like the movie is saying that Alzheimer's research is bad.
Right. The shark brains don't deteriorate over time, that the neurons stay active, and by harvesting this stuff, brain juice from them, and applying it to human brain cells, is that they repair themselves.
Sure.
And they're no longer that way. But they just happen to use giant man-eating sharks.
Which seems like a weird ass backwards way to get to genetically engineered sharks. You know what I mean? It seems like so many steps. Essentially, this is what we're dealing with here, is the idea that we're introducing a predatory species, a violent predatory species, genes, into a completely benign species of fish through CRISPR, and creating a weird animal hybrid that may be able to survive better through climate change. The climate has changed. It's already changed. We fucked it up. We blew it. We're going to blow past 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global average temperature. So now they're trying to figure out how to create animals that will survive the new environment, and CRISPR is the way they do it, and we're going to explain CRISPR here in a second. But essentially, the idea is they're genetically engineering fish, benign fish with murderous fish. If that isn't a premise for a horror movie, I don't know what is. Straight up a horror movie premise. And we're doing it. And this has been reviewed by the MIT Technology Review paper, the University of Auburn. So the experiment itself isn't complicated. There isn't a long story to it, but it does match up well with the evergreen human universal truth that is Deep Blue Sea. If you don't know what CRISPR is, it's going to become very, very, very prevalent in the next coming decades. But CRISPR essentially is gene editing through virus, kind of, or through some naturally occurring biological entity. They discovered, and by they I mean scientists, not the Jews.
Oh.
Well, we just talked about they and the whole thing. There are viruses and other biological entities that, they go down your DNA strand and they clip out certain things. They're able to disconnect certain genes or certain amino acids out of your DNA strand. And that's how they affect your health or your overall genetics, right? And so when scientists figured out that viruses will do that, they figured out that you could program benign viruses to do the same thing, but to recognize, instead of recognizing whatever the normal virus would do, whatever part it would take out, you could program it to recognize something else, something custom. So it'll go in, it'll see your DNA strand, it'll go in almost, and this sounds ridiculous, but almost like with a pair of scissors, it'll go in, it'll cut out whatever gene it's designed to recognize, and then splice it back together, and then there's your actual DNA strand. It sounds really simple and weird, but that's literally how it works. And it's called gene editing. And there are several different ways to do it, but that's kind of the long and short of it. One of the most well-known processes is called CRISPR-Cas9, which is short for Clustered Regulatory Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats, and CRISPR-associated protein 9. That's the most common way to do it. That's a clunky acronym. And it's actually one of the most innovative things that human beings have done in the last 100 years. It's going to change the world for good or bad. It is based on a naturally occurring gene editing system that bacteria use as an immune defense. This is where it gets weird. Bacteria can be infected with a virus, which sounds bonkers, but it's like a vampire being bitten by a werewolf. You know what I mean? Like,
I've seen that movie.
I have totally seen them. Yeah. Is that a movie? It might be.
Yeah, it's Underworld.
Oh!
That's the whole
That was
process of that.
That was Stony.
Oh, come on. Underworld
I
isn't
know.
that
Kate
bad.
Beckinsale's super hot. I know. I get it. You and I have seen her in person.
It's true. Been on an elevator with her.
Were we, or was it just you?
Well, I was. I don't know where you were. I was kind of
I don't
consumed
remember
by
that.
all that she was at that moment. So maybe you were there, maybe you weren't. I don't care.
So bacteria, when they're infected with viruses, they capture small pieces of the virus's DNA and they insert them into their own DNA in a certain pattern that creates these segments known as CRISPR arrays. And that is it. That is an acronym. CRISPR arrays allowed the bacteria to remember the viruses or something similar to it. And if the virus attacks again, the bacteria produces RNA segments from those arrays that know what that's supposed to be and what it looks like, and then seek it out, and then attacks those specific regions of the virus's DNA. Then they use the Cas9 or similar enzyme to just straight up remove it from the DNA part, which makes the virus inert, which is fascinating and evolutionarily totally makes sense. Now, the crazy part is that we figured out how to use that exact technique on everything. So you take a small piece of RNA with a little instructional booklet that attaches to a specific sequence of a cell's DNA, much like the way that RNA segments in bacteria produce from the CRISPR array. And this guide RNA also attaches to the Cas9 enzyme. So when you introduce that into cells, the guide RNA recognizes the intended DNA sequence, this little chunk here, which I'm, for some reason, pretending is my liver.
Right there.
Right here, this is the one that's causing me trouble. Shut up, I'll drink you into oblivion.
Don't hurt me no more.
And then it cuts that DNA sequence out exactly the way it would do in a bacteria. And even though that method is the enzyme that is used most often, there are plenty of other enzymes that can be used. This is all evolutionary biology on a microscopic level. It's really not that different than splicing plants together or animal husbandry. It's kind of like we figured out how genes work, and now we're using their natural processes. It's not that weird. It's not crazy science. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, okay. Then, in 1992, Khan Noonien Singh, a genetically engineered human, takes over a quarter of the planet, starting the eugenics wars, which we all remember.
No, I was there, man.
We were there.
I saw it all.
That's an emerging science that is completely valid and quite frankly, problematic, because it is extremely helpful. It could change the entire world. I mean, we could literally edit the genes that trigger aging. We could literally edit the genes that trigger inherited diseases like Huntington's disease, or even, and I hate to say this, but even like Down syndrome, or,
Mm-hmm.
and that, you know, once we,
Therapeutics for cancer.
yeah, absolutely, which is great, except for the Star Trek obvious parallel, where Star Trek did a really good job early on tackling this concept that if we live in a capitalist system that's class stratified, if we have the ability to edit the traits that an offspring will have before it's born, you know, only those who can afford to do it will do it. And then you're going to create this insane, you know, class system of dullards and super genetically engineered super beings, essentially. And that's why in Star Trek, they talk about how, like, that's illegal. Like, they just, across the board, no genetic engineering, because the slippery slope was too much. It's just too much. Yeah, you could cure Huntington's disease, but you could also make them the smartest person in the universe. You could laboratorily create the Quetzalcoatl, and that's a problem, you know. So,
and that's if things go right. If they go exactly as planned.
Go right, yeah. And there are plenty of reasons why they go wrong. Actually,
yeah, I mean, there's lots of people say that, you know, the enzyme can cut into other parts of the genome that can result in other mutations and cancers that we have no idea about.
Absolutely. Because we don't know the long-term ramifications of that. That's why early on, in America, they banned human cloning, because they're like, well, we don't know where this is going to go. This is really problematic. Like, we really shouldn't do this, you know? And that's essentially the problem with it. Unfortunately, I don't think CRISPR editing is illegal. In fact, I think it's a major study right now. So,
yeah, I know it's being used. I've been to different websites that are like therapeutic uses for CRISPR. You know, a lot of it's doing stuff like, you know, taking part of your cells out, reworking the genetic code in there, and then reinserting them into you and letting that do its thing for varying. I mean, maybe there are things that you can't do, you're not allowed to do. I don't know. I don't know what the
I don't think
legal bioethical concerns are with CRISPR.
Yeah, we'd have to do more research on that. I know China has a bunch of restrictions on it. I don't know that the US has. I know that mostly the FDA has to approve of any sort of, you know, experimentation or execution of that kind of research. But the real issue is that, yeah, it could cure all these horribly debilitating, you know, genetic disorders. But then what's going to stop the rich from just creating super children that are, you know, far and above everyone else in the world, who, you know, who will rule over everyone and be the new ruling political class, and, you know, like creating essentially a proletariat class that is just regular normie, you know, kind of like in Elysium, even though it's not a great movie, like it's kind of what they touch on there, or Gattaca, or
yeah, Gattaca's probably a better example.
Yeah,
because I think they literally do gene editing, which makes, like, the old school kind of raw baby and then the new gene edited baby. And now all the new babies that are being born are the gene edited ones, which then make the other ones kind of the lower caste, meant to do menial jobs and unable to advance.
Right. So you've created an intentional class system. That's a serious issue to consider. And an old school sci-fi trope, I mean, it's not too far off from A Brave New World. We are finally actually coming to the point where we have to debate these things. Before, a lot of times, the popular fiction, including the movies and books that deal with this kind of issue, those were allegories for something else, like communism or capitalism or consumerism or basically any of the ills of society. But now we're actually getting to the point where it's literal. We're literally dealing with these issues. And we have to actually ask ourselves, like, is this okay to do? How do we deal with these things? Do we outlaw them? Do we regulate them? Do we let science take its course? Which we, in my opinion, probably shouldn't, because if we live in a system where everything's commodified, that's only going to end up with store-bought genetically engineered children. So I mean,
it's like, do like a Resident Evil-esque example of
sure.
things go wrong because you've edited. There's the somatic cells, like lung cells, liver cells that you change, and they change in the function, or germline cells that go into an ovum and embryos and sperm cells and will change, like, not only you, but your children, your children's children, their children, and can form mutations that we have no idea where things will go.
We have no clue. And the actual movie that, if we're going through this pattern or whatever, the actual movie that deals with this exact topic, sadly, is I Am Legend with Will Smith, where in the very beginning, they do a whole montage thing about Tilda Swinton. I think it's Tilda Swinton, isn't it?
Is it Tilda Swinton?
I think
I didn't know she was in that. I don't remember that.
I think she's in the beginning, yeah. Where this is how they frame the issue, is that they had genetically engineered basically the flu virus to cut out identifiable cancer genes out of DNA. And she's like on some sort of like morning talk show, and she's trying to explain how it works. And they're like, "Oh, so you've cured cancer?" And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially how it goes. She's like, "Oh yeah, totally." And so the idea is that they CRISPR engineered a highly contagious virus to be inert for its normal property, but contains an RNA sequence that will cut out cancer sequences out of DNA for anyone it infects. But then, of course, it mutates. They become translucent vampire zombie?
Something like that.
Something like
they don't
that.
Really say. I mean, in the book, they were vampires. But
In the book, they're just straight up vampires. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the way that movie. And that movie is like, all right, whatever. But that is your movie reference for that entire concept. So if you want to see. Sadly, that movie actually at least completely addresses that concept, like right off the bat. It's not a good movie, but it does address that. And also, they do predict Batman versus Superman. So, if you've seen that scene.
I mean, in reference to like what they do in that movie and real life, I mean, He Jiankui, who did the CRISPR babies, he was literally editing them to try and make them immune to HIV.
Wow. That's interesting because, we don't know what, I mean, the paranoia behind what those modifications could mean is both justified and also kind of a little overhyped. Because, like, if you're only editing one thing, it's most likely that it's going to be fine. I mean, because we've been doing that with, like, animals and crops essentially since we started, domestic cultivation.
Which one could say is good or one could say is bad. I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
there's an argument on both sides for sure. I mean, corn, bananas, all that kind of stuff. We've genetically altered all sorts of things through natural processes. This is the first one that's ever been done in lab, and there are pros and cons to all of those things. But this is the first one where we have essentially crossed over to Mary Shelley territory, where we're doing it outside of natural processes. So, I don't know. It's an interesting debate that I'm sure, get into again later.
Yeah, and it's the type of thing that we have to believe that is going on without our knowledge.
Oh,
I
100%.
mean,
Yeah.
that there's got to be CRISPR engineering going on, A, in governments that aren't as vocal about their activities, or B, for rich people on, islands. It's not hard to hire a scientist and like, hey, do whatever I'm giving you money to do. And who knows what those things might affect. That's also just doing with humans. We're not talking about like other animals that they're using things for, other, I mean, that's a big part of what the latest Jurassic World, Dominion, is that they genetically alter, what is it? Not
Jeff
beetles. Like grasshoppers or whatever.
Oh, locusts. Yeah,
Locusts, yeah. That essentially just go prey on the fields of their competitors.
Oh, we're getting into
crops.
Monsanto. Monsanto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they end up like, creating, a global famine that's going to wipe out everything.
And it's funny because that movie is terrible, and I know they thought they were being super clever and meta by being like they think they were commenting on like Monsanto and stuff by using locusts, in the biblical metaphor or whatever. But why is that in that movie? And also, that's stupid. But you're correct. I mean, where are you going to go? Because we're already to that point where corporate farms are. I mean, we're talking about like at this point, currently, we're living essentially under fascist corporate farming, where there are farmers who just have their own farm owned by their family next door to a farm owned by Monsanto or ConAgra, and all of the crops on the other farm are genetically engineered and patented by those companies. And then if the wind comes and something drifts over to the other farm, incidentally, they will come to your fucking farm with armed guards and intimidate you and demand that you pay them royalties for whatever happens to randomly grow on your farm based on their genetically engineered shit, because they have patented whatever genes exist in that. And that's terrifying, because not only are we talking about the worst part of capitalism, but we're also talking about fascio-capitalism. So we're opening doors that, yes, will save lives, but also may ruin all of human society.
More news will be on the way, I'm sure.
Oh, sure. We're going to update you with some actual current news. Like, a lot of stuff we do is evergreen, but hey, sometimes we want to bring you what's important now, what's on your mind, whether it's Henry Cavill and whether or not he's problematic, apparently, or whether or not James Gunn is problematic, or basically who's problematic, and then
or science stuff also. I guess.
Science. Oh, actually, more science. It's probably more
Yes.
science. It's probably more science. How much of science is problematic?
I say we cancel science.
Science.
Oh shit!
Man,
Am I running for Republican Senate now?
right, exactly.
That's what we will bring to you both today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Gene
So
Triplehorn.
If you like any of what you hear,
We'd be shocked if you did.
please like, subscribe, rate us on iTunes and whatever podcatcher of your choice. Please tell your friends and their friends and the friends of their friends.
And if you're single, hook us up with any of your single friends, anybody that's sad and lonely. Shut-ins, we're good with them.
Incels, on-cells, win-cells, bin-cells, all of them.
Oh, yeah, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, get out of here. All right, so you
Say
have
your
to go. You have to do the thing. All right, we rambled long enough. So thank you guys for listening for some ungodly reason. And don't forget to support your local comic shops and retailers. And from Dispatch Ajax, we would like to say, Godspeed, fair wizards.
Please, go away.